What's up, Taiwan? I'm Eric Gao, bringing you the latest news from here in Taipei. A plan to build Taiwan's own Silicon Valley has been given the green light by the government. This project would see multiple tech hubs connected to focus more on artificial intelligence. Joyce Zheng has more for us from the newsroom here in Taipei. Joyce, this is a huge project. What exactly does it involve?
Hey, Eric, this is a huge milestone for Taiwan's tech sector that's been years in the making. This new government plan, which is being launched as we speak at a ceremony in Tainan, where President Lai Ching-te is expected to attend. The plan is to link 4 major tech parks in the south into an S corridor, the S referring to the shape, from the park in Jiayi City to Tainan to Kaohsiung, and finally Pingtung, all to make sure that Taiwan is a leader in this dawning era for AI. Now, these parks are essentially massive clusters of private companies, startups, research centers, and also supporting government facilities for things like power and water that all form this ecosystem that to more efficiently drive innovation and business. Now, in this industry, it helps to have easy access to each other. AI works because it's a marriage of different fields, bringing their latest innovations together to create something more powerful. If you move around these parks, we're talking about having a TSMC fab right there making the most advanced chips in the world. And then down the road, there's a Delta site, 3M, major optoelectronics firms. You're just surrounded by big players. Now, the idea of going a step further and connecting these parks across cities gives Taiwan a larger resource and talent base to expand into things like AI, drones, smart agriculture, and more.
Joyce, we know that these high-tech operations, they need a lot of resources, especially water. But we've seen the southern region hit pretty bad by droughts in recent years. So how do these challenges fit into this plan?
Right, Eric, that is one of the biggest questions. How will Taiwan manage its resources for this new Silicon Valley while ensuring residents and other businesses in the south still have enough things like power and water? The tech ministry has assured that there will be enough resources to go around. We're still learning, though, what that looks like exactly. But to start, the ministry has described a plan to connect all the reservoirs in the region. There are 8 in the south, but like you said, Eric, this is a drought-prone area of the country. There have been severe droughts in recent years. Water levels rose significantly last year after 3 typhoons, but water is still an important variable here. Power, too. Taiwan is no stranger to blackouts. The biggest players like TSMC have backup generators to keep operations going, but energy is still another issue to watch, especially as other foreign firms like NVIDIA, AMD also look to set up shop in Taiwan.
So there's definitely a lot of work ahead to get this project up and running. Thank you, Joyce. That was Joyce Sun reporting live from Taipei. Now we turn to former Taipei Mayor Wen-je, who has been detained again just 1 week after being released on bail over corruption charges. Prosecutors say they're concerned that he and 3 other bail defendants could collude with each other online. Tiffany Wong joins us live from outside the detention center where Ke is being held. Tiffany, what does this mean for Ke's case?
Well, it seems like the Taipei District Court is having a hard time deciding what exactly to do with former Taipei Mayor Wen-je and 3 other defendants who had been released on bail as this case proceeds. They now have gone back on their previous judgment that these 4 defendants would not interfere with the investigation, and now they're agreeing with prosecutors that they could in fact pose a flight risk, might possibly tamper with evidence, or even try to collude with others. And so now they've sent them back to detention. They had their 3rd bail hearing on Thursday. It lasted 5 hours, and Ke asked the court to tell him who exactly, asked prosecutors to give him a list of who exactly he should not contact while out on bail. And he says that the prosecutors are targeting him. And his party, the Taiwan People's Party, has also agreed that prosecutors are bullying him. And they've even called out the court for being allegedly influenced by the president, Lai Ching-te, who leads the Democratic Progressive Party. And now they've called for a nationwide protest on January 11th, which is Justice's Day.
全中华民国、全台湾到底有谁觉得柯文哲会逃亡？你脑袋有洞吗？检察官在申请羁押柯文哲的过程当中，他们那一种恶质的伎俩，我老实讲，连法官都被惹毛了。
Ke had already been held incommunicado for 4 months since September, and that was when prosecutors were building up their case, investigating his phone records, his computer records, his financial records, and they came out with a 190-page indictment against him and officially charged him with acts of corruption, including accepting bribes and misusing political funds regarding alleged dealings with a real estate case while he was mayor, as well as his campaign funds while he was running for president last year. Now prosecutors immediately appealed right after he was released on a bail of $1 million, and the High Court did revoke the court's decision at that time. They raised his bail to $2 million and required him to wear an ankle monitor. But now with this latest decision, we find Ke back in detention, and Ke's team is ready to appeal, which they must do within 10 days. Otherwise, they may not see him for the next few months.
Thank you for that, Tiffany. That was Tiffany Wong reporting from the Taipei Detention Center. Dramatic scenes are unfolding on the streets of Seoul as an attempt to arrest impeached President Yoon Suk-yeol has been aborted. Leslie Liao has the latest.
A president impeached, now resisting arrest. South Korean police officers arrived in force at the country's presidential residence in the early hours of Friday morning to detain suspended leader Yoon Suk-yeol, who was removed for suddenly enacting martial law last month.
저는 북한 공산 세력의 위협으로부터 자유 대한민국을 수호하고 우리 국민의 자유와 행복을 약탈하고 있는
But police faced a tough task in even getting to Yoon, with supporters of the impeached president vowing to block the arrest as they surround the presidential compound.
윤석열 대통령은 여태까지 국가의 법을 지켜왔고 저자들은 국가의 법이 없습니다. 대한민국은 지금 무법천지가 되어가고 있습니다. 이런 상황에서 국민의 한 사람으로서 도저히 그냥 이 자리를 묵고 할 수 없어서 이 자리에 찾아왔습니다.
Yoon's lawyer has also called the arrest attempt unlawful, saying they will challenge any attempt to bring the president in. And beyond the protesters, two more obstacles complicated efforts to detain Yoon. A military unit tasked with protecting the presidential residence and Yoon's personal security detail. Local media reported that police successfully negotiated with the military and made it to Yoon's door. But corruption officials deemed the arrest impossible and called off the effort, marking more turmoil in an increasingly unstable government. Klein Wong and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is planning to send more than 100 Air Force personnel to the U.S. for training as part of Washington and Taipei's unofficial security relationship. For more on how the U.S. and Taiwan cooperate on defense, Jaime Ocon spoke to Michael Hunzeker from George Mason University.
Can you explain how common is it for Taiwan to send military personnel to the United States for training?
So it's a long-standing practice for the United States that when we sell weapons to another country as part of the Foreign Military Sales or FMS program, that those weapons come along with training on how to actually operate the vehicle or the platform. So this is something the United States has long been doing. There's nothing particularly unusual or provocative about it. By way of example, 20-some years ago when I was still on active duty, I was part of an FMS sale of the amphibious assault vehicle, 50 of those to Taiwan. And as part of that package, Taiwan would send groups of officers over to the United States where I would help train them on how the vehicle operated. And we sent a team of Marines out to Kaohsiung and they spent actually 6 months in Taiwan training enlisted personnel how to use the vehicle. So this is very standard for the course because American weapons can be somewhat complicated, and it would not be helpful to anybody to sell a weapon and then not make sure the partner knows how to use it.
What would you say is the biggest difference for Taiwan's military in terms of training? Why should Taiwan make the trip all the way to the United States?
I think there are probably two elements. The first simply is space. We have a lot more of it in the United States. Some of our smallest bases are probably larger in terms of the ability to actually get out and maneuver than the largest of facilities in Taiwan. The second piece, which I think does lend itself to change, but the change won't come quickly, is cultural. There's just a long-standing emphasis on decentralized decision-making in the United States, both in the military, but also culturally writ large. And one of the reasons I have thought it would make sense to send units to the United States is that allows these units and these leaders of the units to sort of break out of Taiwanese military culture, which we all know can be very hierarchical, very top-down, and put them in an environment where they're surrounded by U.S. units. And the fact that in the U.S., it is not just common, but actually expected that young officers and non-commissioned officers are going to make mistakes. And mistakes are part of that learning process. And if you don't make mistakes, then you can't learn to make decisions on your own. That's an important piece of modern warfare.
With Taiwan's military saying that it's going to be switching to more asymmetric weapons, these are smaller, more mobile systems, is Taiwan still going to need to increase its training?
One of the arguments for asymmetric weapons is that they don't require such large logistics trains and such large training packages, and that hopefully would give the United States and Taiwan additional flexibility. That said, I would always place out the caveat that I am just not yet convinced M&D is wholeheartedly buying into this concept of asymmetry, and I worry a great deal about absorptive capacity. The M&D just is not that large. The services in Taiwan aren't that large. These are large weapons that we've been selling. The 100 or so M1A2 Abrams that are arriving are a prime example. And so Taiwan is just going to have to divert a lot of personnel and a lot of capacity towards learning those weapons. And so are they really going to have the bandwidth left over to also simultaneously really truly engage in mastering asymmetric warfare?
That was Associate Professor Michael Hunziker from George Mason University. China has slapped sanctions on 10 U.S. defense firms over arms sales to Taiwan. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and Boeing Defense are among the companies added to Beijing's unreliable entities list. They will be restricted from doing business in China, and their executives will be barred from visiting the country. Beijing also banned the export of products like drones and machine tools to 28 U.S. defense contractors. The 10 blacklisted companies had taken part in U.S. arms sales to Taiwan despite strong opposition from Beijing. Investigators have identified the man who blew up a Tesla Cybertruck outside the Trump Hotel in Las Vegas. Police say the suspect was an active duty member of the U.S. Army's Special Forces stationed in Germany. Authorities say he shot himself before the explosion went off. They are still investigating the case. Traffic authorities are stressing the importance of seatbelts after 19 of the roughly 70 people who died on Taiwan's highways last year were not properly buckled up. According to the Highway Police Bureau, more than 160,000 seatbelt violations were reported over the course of the year. Officials are reminding people to wear their seatbelts and pay attention to safety when they hit the road for the Lunar New Year holiday. Millions of people are expected to travel across Taiwan over the break, starting at the end of January. Taiwan's labor pension fund has recorded record-breaking returns for the first 11 months of 2024. The fund earned over $31 billion between January and November last year, with individual workers potentially receiving an average dividend of just over $1,700. The Labor Ministry says the new labor pension fund contributed most of those profits, accounting for over $21 billion. The strong performance is being attributed to gains in global stock and bond markets and strategic investments in AI-driven sectors. And thank you for tuning in to What's Up Taiwan. Download our app to get more of our news reports on your mobile device. Finally, we leave you with images of Taiwan's tallest mountain, Yushan, experiencing the first snowfall of the winter. I'm Eric Gao. Take care, and we'll see you next time.